Welcome to the podcast, Growing Older with Gusto, a podcast dedicated to showcasing people who are growing older in a positive and productive way or helping others to grow older in the same way. I am Gail Zergerman, your host, and today we have a return guest who is Jerjian from London, and he was on the show last week, and he's going to be talking about how he came to his chapter of life to become a retirement mindset mentor. And he talked a lot last episode about something he calls the identity renaissance. He's going to summarize that for us, and then we're going to move on. So welcome back to the show, George.
Thanks, Gail. Great to be back.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit, maybe in a few sentences, so that other people might not have been fortunate enough to listen to the last episode and should know a little bit about what you're referring to when you call the identity renaissance.
Yeah. Well, let me just kick off with identity. For a lot of us, we think our identity is ironclad. We think that we think we are who we think we are. Mm-hmm. And it sounds weird, but identity is malleable. Psychologists will tell you that we have 30 personalities. One for, it'd be one for each parent when we start off as babies. Mm-hmm. And then for teachers, for relatives, for friends. And we develop these personalities, these personas.
I was just going to say, could you use the word persona too?
I think persona, and persona is another word for mask. So we never really show our true selves. There's this mask that we present to the person that makes us, and that's kind of takes us into people pleasing and so on, because we're trying to adapt and survive in life. And identity is something that I touched on because it's the first casualty in retirement. And people don't recognize that. They think it's health, it's money, it's whatever. But the first casualties are identity. And that's because the work that we did was an integral part of our identity. And when the work disappears, we try to scramble back in there part-time or anyway, because our ego wants to survive. But actually, life is goading us, pushing us to go in a different direction. And we are scared, if I can use this phrase, shitless, of facing that new journey. It's a journey of the unknown, it's fear. And so how do you change your identity? Well, it doesn't take a great deal to understand that there are parts of us that have not been explored. There are parts of us that we suppressed growing up. And this is an opportunity for us to now resurrect certain parts of ourselves in order to embark on this next journey. And so my kind of thing is that you really want to try and get to your authentic self, the self that you would have denied to anybody else, right? The self that you're not comfortable to admit.
Well,
right?
So let me ask you this. Is this where we get to what you call the DARE method? Are we leading up to this? Okay.
We're leading up to this, yes. And so, but I didn't know this. It's the process that led me to this point. I was, if you like, everybody thinks moving into retirement is just a walk in the park. You just move from one place to the other. We don't realize that we're shedding our skins. We're shedding our identity. And to give you this analogy about shedding skin, if a snake does not shed its skin, it suffocates itself. Mm-hmm. And in a sense, that's what we do in retirement when we don't shed our old identity that is no longer fit for purpose in this next stage of life. And I think this is probably a good point
to start with. So you develop through your own circumstances, as I understand it, a method to help people through this process.
Correct.
Okay, it's interesting.
Yeah. I developed the process because I kind of went step back to where I was to find out how I came to where I came to. But also, I had surveyed 21,000 people. So, and I'd studied a great deal about retirement, even back to its original point in history, why it was introduced, how it was introduced. And so I put all of this together and created the DARE method. And the first thing your audience will want to know is, what does DARE even mean?
Right.
And DARE is another word for courage. Now, courage is not an intellectual faculty. It's a heart-based faculty, coming from the Latin cor, meaning heart. So it's an emotion, it's a feeling, and the rational mind supports it. And I have to bring a quote from Einstein, who said that the intuitive mind is the master, the emotional mind is the master.
It's like saying, use your gut. Is that sort of like using your gut?
In a sense, yes, because the heart has its own brain, so to speak, as does the gut. And it's about trusting our inner being, and the heart holds the feelings, right? And the feelings is where the power is. That's the engine. The rational mind is what Einstein called its servant. But we live in a society that worships the rational mind and completely ignores the intuitive. And so, in a sense, it's bringing the thing back to its proper place, which is that you have to make a decision from the heart. What is it? Who is it you want to be in terms of existing on this planet, right? You've served everybody, you've done everything else. Now is your final chance, right? Before you get to your deathbed, and it's too late to change at that point. So you want to be, it's life knocking on your door saying, who do you want to be, right? And for many people, it's their higher self, their gentle self, their better angels. They want to do something that helps other people and gives them a sense of fulfillment and significance, right? Because when you reach a certain age, as Carl Jung said, what was true in the morning of life becomes a lie in the evening, right? Everything we chase in the morning of life, achievements, accolades, ambition, become too much hard work with too little return after a certain age. And this is where you can't just continue doing what you did.
Okay, so what's the first step?
Okay. Before I get there, I just want to say that this is not me coming up with this. I'm just bringing in together what, even in the in literature, the Odyssey. The Odyssey is the second part of the book. The earlier book, the first book, is the Iliad, which is the Battle of Troy. It's the whole Battle of Troy. It's the younger part of life. The Odyssey is the second part, which is returning home to yourself. And I'll end it there. So what is there? There is courage to take this hugely necessary and essential step to moving into the second half of life with a different mindset, a different heart, and a different purpose. And the other thing is, there is also an acronym for discover, assimilate, rewire, expand.
I like that.
And I did that because you can teach this ad infinitum and you will lose people, they will go astray. But when you have a box, a Lego, and you show them how to put it together, and you create a word they remember, everything else comes back to this point, right? So you can drill down. And that's why I try to make it easy in how I share information. So discover is about discovering what retirement is and what it is not. Mm-hmm. There are 8 billion people on this planet. Each one's got a different definition of retirement.
So how do you do that? How do you tell somebody who is at the gateway to this another chapter of their life? What do you say to them? How do they start the discovery process?
Okay. I say to them, look, I don't have the answers for you, mm-hmm. but I can help you elicit the answers from within you. Another revelation to people is that the answer does not lie outside of us. People are looking for the next thing outside. Somebody's going to show me the way. Somebody's going to tell me what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I have no right to tell you what to do. Each one of us knows what we want, but we've lied for so long we've forgotten. And it's about drilling down within. It's about an inner journey. It's an odyssey, an inventure as opposed to an adventure. And so it's about exploring and facing up to the things that we're fearful about, facing up to grieving who we were. Because that's a process too. Who we were's gone. And people get stuck where they are because they can't move on. They don't know how to move on. And so I help them to take that leap of faith to explore.
Right. So how do we move from, new endings to new beginnings?
Right.
Or endings to new beginnings. Yeah.
It's the process. So you move to the second letter, A of dare, which is assimilate. Mm-hmm. Assimilate new information about how our mind works. And I'm not talking about the conscious mind, the thinking mind. I'm talking about the intuitive, the emotional mind, the subconscious, the unconscious. And again, as Jung said, we have to shed light on our own darkness. Also, Joseph Campbell, the mythologist, talked about going, on this, the hero's journey. We do that at the beginning of life. We need to do that as we come towards the end. The same kind of, but a different journey. So assimilate is about understanding how our mind works. And once you understand, it's actually the opposite of the intellectual mind, how it works, logically, step by step by step. The next letter is R. It's about rewiring our thinking, right? Moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Carol Dweck talks about this in her book, Mindset. And just a synopsis of it, capturing in a sentence or two. A fixed mindset is, I can't do this. A growth mind says, I can't do this yet. One word pivots you. It opens up to new possibilities. And so it's about changing and rewiring that inner dialogue. And E is for expansion, to expand. Why do I say expand? Because if you retire at 65, just to give you a number, you are likely to live another 25, 30 years. Of course, the paradox is some of us will not make it to this evening. But generally and statistically, most of us are going to make it, bar a nuclear holocaust or whatever. Most of us are going to make it to a very ripe old age. Some to even to 100 quite easily. So from 65 to 100 is 35 years. Just say 25 years. The way we think is not going to help us get through that time. We're not going to be able to traverse this terrain with the old map and an old mindset. Right? Everything has a software update, and we need that too. It's about changing how we think, how we perceive, and how we feel.
It's very interesting. So your method, the DARE method, how long does it take? What does it involve? So our listeners get more of a handle on it.
Of course. The DARE method is an 8-week module, mm-hmm. and is pre-recorded digital 8-week one. And then there's a live one where I'm on there 90 minutes each week for 8 weeks with a group of people. And we go through, I do a presentation for 30 minutes, and then we spend 60 minutes working on exercises, which I've prepared for each module.
How do you individualize it for each specific person that you're working with?
Okay.
Or who's working with you, I should say.
It's really a process, and everybody's going to come to it from a different angle. Mm-hmm. But the essence is the same. You know, the facts and the stories and the approaches and the direction, all that will be different for everybody. But the process remains the same.
Okay.
Because they're all about questions and quests.
What's the age range that you think would get the most out of your program? I'm trying to get it. Is it more well suited for somebody just entering retirement, somebody who's been stymied for 5 years? I mean,
it's 55 to 75 is what I normally sort of say, but it could, you can go a little further out and further in. It all depends. What I teach actually, conceptually, is applicable to a 30-year-old because it's mindset changing, really, and change. But a younger person who is embarking on life, they go in the traditional path of getting married, getting a mortgage, house. Although that's not the way it goes these days, but they're on a different trajectory, and I don't serve that group of people. But the mindset change can apply to everybody. But my process is targeted to people aged 55 to 75, and there is no ideal situation, whether it's pre-retirement, in retirement, or long in retirement. If you're ready for a change, this is going to help you.
How did you develop these exercises?
God, that's such a good question. Well, coaching has a lot of exercises. All right, I'm not a coach, but I approached a coaching association and got the material that they use for different specific changes that wanted. I knew what changes were required. I just didn't know how to help people process it. So I then took that information and reformatted it to people aged 55 to 75 with the concept of transitioning through retirement to unretire and have a new beginning.
Hey, got it.
And the objective is that at the end of the 8 weeks, you end up with one sheet of paper where you've got your life plan, a work in progress, it's not written in stone, which helps you to now explore what you need to do. So for many people, it will be, for example, I'm done with my business. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what to do, but now because I've thought about it, I sat down, worked on this for myself. Mm-hmm. I've decided that within the next 2-3 years, I want to sell this business. In the meantime, I'm going to work on what I'm going to be, who I'm going to be, and who I'm going to serve in the next chapter of my life. So again, I also recommend to them that you want to take a gap year, a sabbatical. Not immediately, sell your business first, and then don't jump into something new immediately.
Interesting. Okay.
You need time to decompress, travel to a place you love, right? I went around the world in 80 days because that was my epic journey I wanted to do. That was my dream. That was my unfinished dream of a youngster who wanted to do this years ago, and life got in the way. Everybody's got their own, do not mimic or copy me. You have your own agenda. You have your own, and you should, what's the word for it? Keep that sacred. All right? Because everybody's journey is sacred and unique. It's how you really step into who you are.
So getting back to your example, which I love, of the man with the business, he's going to sell the business. Now you're telling him to take a gap year. And then what? Then what is he going to do?
When you go on your gap year, the process is you're now in a completely different environment. And it's amazing that when you go into a new environment, how humble we become. Because we don't know and we need people's help. So arrogance gets parked. We all are human, right? We get to a certain place and we think, I deserve this or I deserve that. Well, it's nonsense. It's all imagination. But
Right.
by going to a foreign country, you're forced to see things from a different perspective. And if you're humble, it's much easier to navigate. And you're on this journey not for a vacation. You're on this journey to observe with curiosity how other people live. Would you like to live that way? What aspects of life there can you see yourself flowing with?
Mm-hmm.
So you are going into this project or this gap year with intention, and you come back enriched. So I'm thinking of the book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. The guy leaves his town in Spain. He goes all the way through North Africa. He falls in love. His money's stolen from him. All sorts of things happen to him. Good things happen to him. And finally, he comes back home to the same town. He's a changed person. And the town he lives in, he sees in a different way. And that's kind of what I would encourage you to be thinking about. Because this is the real deal. This is the real life. And this isn't a dress rehearsal. And we're not performing for anyone.
So your client comes back, they travel, they observe, they take things in like a sponge, so to speak. Then they come back. Then what?
Okay. Give you just one client, Jenny from Yorkshire. She was a nurse originally, and then she went into the caring business, where a lot of NHS nurses needed extra work. They would come to her and she would place them in different places. She created a business with a partner, and it grew and it grew. And she reached a point where she was tired, exhausted, and she had dreams that she wasn't sure what it was exactly. But doing my course, she was able to visualize what she wanted to do. And one of the things that she did in the whole process of getting to where she wanted to do was to create this sort of health spa thing near the sea in the northeast of England. And she also wanted to do a bit of traveling. So she had she managed to sell her business. It took her 2 years to sell her business. In the meantime, she traveled across Europe in a camper van. And when she came back, she literally started on this project that she'd visualized 3 years ago. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's a process. Is it difficult? Yes. Is it challenging? Yes. Is it fulfilling? Absolutely. And is it better than being stuck? No. What I'm saying is that being stuck is a horrible place to be. And I think that being stuck and just being comfortable and unchallenged is not the way to live life.
Right.
We have one life, and we got to do something magnificent with it. And I would use the beautiful sentence that Mary Oliver, the American poet laureate, uses. She says, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? What will you do with it?
What is it, George, about the environment, your family, and your friends that best supports a person?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So we talk about environmental factors that factor into our lives, and that obviously encompasses family and friends. How do they best support us in our goals, in our lives, in your estimation?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really, really good question. And no one is an island. We're all connected to other people, family, parents, children, and we have to do the best we can without losing ourselves in it. And that's part of the danger, always giving and not realizing that we're not giving anything to ourselves. And that's not being selfish, obviously, you know. There's a lot of conversations you need to have with your family. Difficult conversations. And some of us will be drawn to going one way and our partner will want to go the other way, and your kids will be militating in another direction. But I think that we have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to put, you know, in the conversation, without being rude or offensive, we have to put our foot down about what it is that we want to do with our lives, and take into account what your partner and kids want to do. But it's very difficult to hold people down. So it's about a dance. You have to be prepared to dance, to have a family, what's the word for it? Engagement that is a floating one, if that makes sense. Where, you know, somebody has to go elsewhere because they need to learn or study something, or their work will take them somewhere else. So it's about flexibility and honoring that everyone has a particular journey. And I think people don't like change, particularly when it comes to retirement. They think, okay, I've worked all my life, now I'm going to sit back and enjoy. And it's not the way it works. And that actually is an illusion. And to that point, I would say, I've researched this thing so deeply that, again, I use Einstein because he used to come up with some fantastic stuff on this. On retirement, he said, no, he didn't say it on retirement. He said, if you want answers to problems, look at nature. I looked at nature. Nothing retires in nature. It's either growing or dying. Mm-hmm. This retirement malarkey is a human concept. It was initiated by Caesar Augustus because he didn't want to be assassinated like his uncle Julius. So he introduced retirement funds for his military, including down to the soldiers, centurions, because he wanted them to be comfortable so they wouldn't rock the boat. They wouldn't try to take his place.
Interesting.
And of course, later on in life, going forward to Bismarck and Roosevelt, they all introduced it because they needed to, because industry wanted to get rid of the older people so the younger people could come in.
I think that continues today also.
Correct. Exactly.
So, George, what is the one thing you tell people not to worry about?
It's a good question, but I'm struggling with the response because I can go to.
Well, okay. What
let me
tell people not to feel fearful of? Maybe that would be
okay.
In terms of growing older.
Okay, in terms of growing older, we're all growing older, and we're all ultimately going to die. What we don't want to do is drift into oblivion, into dementia and Alzheimer's. When you retire, you can retire from your work, but you can't retire from life. And our minds,
a good state.
Our unconscious mind cannot be controlled. It works 24/7 from our date of birth to our date of death. And so when we stop being creative and we stop being of service and we're disconnected from society and from people, and we disengage from mental work, we're doing ourselves a huge disservice because our mind, being 24/7, will create problems. so that it can solve it. It will create worries. So just give you an example. The two things people worry about in retirement, health and money.
Right.
Now you're at home 24/7. You have all the time in the world to create problems. I don't have enough money we got to cut back. We got to do. It's all about making the sandbox smaller and smaller and smaller. But we should be actually expanding, not reducing. And so I would say to you, if you want to stop worrying, you want to stop being fearful, engage with life. Do something that provides service to people.
Okay, that's a good point. I was just going to say, somebody, I don't know who I'm quoting, but they said the first third of your life, you're learning. The second third, you're earning. And the third part, you're returning. You're giving back. So how many people that you interact with your DARE method, let's say, would you say end up feeling more fulfilled by giving back?
Everybody gives back in their own different way. It's difficult to put everybody in one bucket. It's about, okay, you're not working post-retirement. You're not working to make money, right? Well, not even make money. You want to be earning something, right? But it's not about, I want to earn 5 million in the next 3 years. That boat has sailed. That boat has sailed. It's over. But it's about making a living, a fulfilling living, right? And the reason I say that, and it may take you a few years to get to the point where you are earning, because you've got to invest for the thing to grow. You provide a service that you enjoy giving and makes you fulfilled. You're earning your crust of bread and less likely to be depleting your pension, because for 98% of the population, we will outlive our savings. So it's not about preserving your pension, but it's about not depleting it entirely. Because you don't want to reach the age of 85 and think, oh, I should be looking for a job now. You'll be gaga and gone by then. So you want to be creating this new work which provides a service to people. It gives you joy doing that work. And the trick is, the question to ask yourself is, would I do this work for nothing? If you love what you do so much, you would be prepared to do for nothing. And the paradox is, that's when people are going to pay you money.
Okay, so what's next for you, George? Jerjian?
I don't actually know. And that's the mystery, and that's the beauty of it. I'm doing what I do. I enjoy what I do. I get paid for what I do. Am I making millions? No. Do I really want to make millions? Well, if it happens, it happens, but I'm not seeking it. But what I am seeking is to change as many lives as possible. And the joy for me is seeing people transform to something that they might never have achieved if I hadn't intervened.
Very good. So how can my listeners contact you if they would like to learn more about what you're doing to help people enter this new chapter, which sounds fascinating?
Thank you. I would say go to my website, georgejerjian.com.
Okay.
And I've social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. George Jerjian is the handle.
And could you spell that for our listeners, please? Your last name?
Yeah, George Jerjian. It's spelled as you see on the screen there, JERJIAN.com. So it's georgejerjian.com. And handle George Jerjian for the social media, and you'll have everything there.
Great. Well, it's been wonderful talking with you again. And I know you're doing some really important things, and I'm so glad that you could share everything with us and our listeners today. So once again, thanks for coming back. It was quite a treat.
Thanks, Gail.